she did an interview with the Schmo. Shout out to our Las Vegas friend there, in which she was asked, JJ, who is your women's MMA Mount Rushmore? Who's on it? So here's the quote that Joanna gave to the Schmo. Ronda Rousey, number 1. Me, meaning young Jacek, and Amanda Nunes, who became the first champion in 2 different weight classes. So definitely. And Valentina as well. So I put Ronda, Amanda, Valentina, and then me. End quote. Luke, it's got to be a somewhat slow news day to get you to agree to do this shit, but I love this shit. So, Luke, when I look at the women's MMA, first of all, when I look at a potential Mount Rushmore, everything you want to say, I don't think you can disagree with, correct?
Everything? I don't know about everything.
Okay, but she's got Ronda, Amanda, Valentina, and Joanna. You could sub 1, maybe 2 out, but that's still a damn near perfect 4. But when I try to make my own, this thing keeps getting in the way. Tell me if I'm crazy. Because everybody's got to be like, oh, it's got to be Ronda Rousey, number 1, right? But Luke, I feel, not her fault, but I feel that everything that Ronda accomplished, pioneer-wise and star-wise, will never be touched. I mean, she's a phenomenon. But I think her resume and some of her in-cage accomplishments won't age the same way because it was at such an early point in the evolution of women's MMA and the experience level and lack of dynamic skills from a lot of the people she was defending her title against and fighting. You could tell me that's unfair. I'll give you an opportunity. But I almost think you have to look at it as, tell me your criteria. As a Mount Rushmore of women's MMA, a mixture of everything, whereas Ronda's got to be there. But if it's just who are the 4 greatest female fighters I've ever seen, Luke, this could be a Phil Friday hipster hot take shit, but it could be Amanda, Cyborg, Valentina, and Joanna just the same without Rousey on there. Am I being crazy, Luke? How do you look at it?
The problem with these games is that they force you to tell a story in a way that you can't, right? In other words, imagine if you told the story of women's MMA more fully and completely. Yeah. You could include whoever was relevant. You wouldn't have to pare it down to 4 names. In fact, the story of women's MMA cannot be told in 4 names. One of the names you've left off, and I realize this is going to sound like a hipster pick, but dude, it's not. It is important for the story of women's MMA.
You're going to say Fujumi. I know you are.
Yeah, Megumi Fujii. Dude, well, it's not Fujumi. It's Megumi Fujii.
Incorrect. I'm sorry. I'm not doing
but
it.
Dude, like if you look at her record, it doesn't stand the test of time given the era in which she competed in, but like her rise is super important to understand both women's MMA in Japan, women's MMA more
but
generally.
She doesn't cut the top 4 under any of those scenarios I laid out. So this is a little hipster of you to bring her in.
That's cool. Dude, but this is what I'm trying to point out. It's like you're talking about like who's on the Mount Rushmore now. Are those the 4 most important presidents we've ever had? That's certainly very debatable. It's very debatable.
Yeah.
So the point I'm trying to make is if you're trying to pick 4 to tell the most of the story, right, you got to put Cyborg on there. You got to put Amanda Nunes on there. I do think you have to put Rousey on there, just in terms of changing the game. But by the way, dude, like women's boxing is starting to heat up a little bit, and I wonder if Rousey doing what she did in MMA and how much it heated up. And by the way, she of course is not the only ingredient there, but a big one. If that woke up people to women's MMA's potential, and now that's waking up people to women's boxing's potential, there's some kind of argument to be made there potentially.
Oh, for sure. For sure, Luke.
And so, like,
that's what I'm saying. Nobody will ever dent her impact. And she had a Mike Tyson-like run where it was like, I don't even care who she's fighting. I have to see it. But even though Joanna left out Cyborg, I think Cyborg should be in the top 4. Isn't Valentina a better fighter all time? And you could argue has accomplished in terms of in-cage just as much, if not more, than Ronda? Not impact, in-cage, Luke.
Yes, in cage she's done more, but in impact she is infinitesimally much smaller.
So what's your criteria? Answer the question then. At the end of the day, what is your criteria?
But like the criteria is like, who would I put on Mount Rushmore? I just put on motherfuckers I like. Like you can't tell the story of women's MMA with just 4 names. It's not possible. You cannot do it. So the exercise is, I get we do it for shows like this and it's kind of fun. What I would say is somebody who changed the game the most, either through what they did inside or outside, but you have to have a little bit of both. I think that's what I would say. So I might put the last name as Joanna, to be honest with you, over Valentina. And I realize Valentina has done more in cage, but I don't know if she's as important to the overall story of now, she might end up surpassing that, in which case I'd have to switch it out. But as of today, July 8th, 2022, I'd argue that Joanna was a little bit more significant, both in terms of, well, not more as a champion. She has done, her role was spectacular, but in strawweight, she obviously has an incredible run. And outside of the game, it wasn't like she was a huge star in the ways that Rousey was, although I would say more than Valentina. But again, I made this point when she retired. She was something of a torchbearer in that post-Rousey absence for fans, for someone to carry the game. I do think that should be noted, personally.
Everyone's list is going to be different. The criteria is going to be different. I've got Cheyenne Vlismus as the fifth head in this conversation. Luke, I don't have to explain myself to you. But I do think you are looking at it more of probably how most people do, the story of MMA, or the accomplishments mixed with the fame, pioneership. So obviously nobody's touching Rousey in that. If that criteria was had over the entire history of the UFC, not MMA, but the UFC, would you also agree that Ronda's face should be on there, maybe along with Dana, Brock, Anderson Silva? I mean, you could play with those four, but under that way of looking at it, you could make a firm argument that Rousey needs to be on the Mount Rushmore of the entire UFC's history, Luke.
Yeah, you probably could. You could, again, you can't tell the story with just four names, and it's hard to know who the four most important are. But you can absolutely cobble together a case where she is included and not sound crazy. Yes, I think you could do that.